Good morning. I'm Matt Driskill, editor of Asian Aviation Magazine and AsianAviation.com. Welcome to the latest In Conversation, sponsored by Metrojet of Hong Kong. Today, we are speaking with the new executive chair of Jamco, Kate Schaefer. Hope I'm pronouncing that last name right. Kate, welcome to In Conversation.
Hi, thank you. Great to be here, Matt.
Jamco's in the news, obviously. Bain Capital. I think the thing I saw on Reuters or Bloomberg took control for about 700 million US. Bain said it would like to see Jamco back in the premium seat sector, which, as we were talking about before the show, that's one of my favorite sectors. I've managed to fly on first class in Singapore and and business class as well. Give us a quick tour of Jamco, what's in store for the company in the months and the years ahead of us. And I think the deal closes in September. Is that correct?
That is correct. We are currently the majority shareholder, and we're in the process of delisting the company. So September, that should be all finalized. So Jamco, fascinating company. Jamco is a Japanese company with a super strong legacy, and really an impressive story. It designs and manufactures wide-body galleys and lavatories, as well as seats. And it's got locations in Japan, the Philippines, and also kind of a pretty big factory in the US. And it also has, which a lot of people don't know, an MRO division, aircraft MRO division, which focuses exclusively on the Japanese domestic market.
Okay.
So Jamco, though, it's kind of why us, why now, why are they being delisted? So COVID was really hard on the company, and it acquired a pretty large amount of debt. But with its unique position on the 787 and the A350, along with the substantial sort of kind of in-house engineering capability that they use to create aircraft modifications and a pretty actually unique design team capable of producing monuments, branding elements, that kind of thing, the investment by Bain kind of made a lot of sense. So basically, we see a huge potential to create a platform. So everybody's talking to us about like Jamco, why Jamco, and is Jamco it? And actually, we have aspirations a little bit beyond just Jamco. We think really that there's an interesting moment in time right now to create a platform really focused on wide body premium products. So new innovative designs targeted on really laser focused on the customer and the passenger experience.
Well, I'm curious. I mean, Bain, I actually know some guys in the investment world. I used to work for a company that produced a junk bond database that was sold to Dow Jones. So, I'm very interested. Bain seems to be making a big, they took control of Virgin Australia, I think. Aviation is not exactly as COVID saw, but even without COVID, I mean, aviation airlines are. I was at a conference one time, and the guy said, airlines are a hamburger and a Coke away from losing money on a per passenger per flight basis. So it's not exactly the most stable of industries. The margins are very thin. Uh, why, and again, why Jamco? Why now? Why? What does Bain see in Jamco that others didn't, perhaps?
Yeah, well, and Bain did very well with Virgin Australia, right? So I'm not sure I'm the most qualified person to talk about Bain's strategy overall, but from what I can tell you from the last 12 months of working with them, I've been on the team with them now for almost 12 months. They have a formidable operational and managerial expertise. Really impressive. And frankly, when I kind of first started working with them, it was quite surprising to me, the real depths of talent. And they seem to target areas where they can add kind of like significant value, enable growth, provide investment and transformation expertise. And I think aerospace is really attractive, probably to them and a number of other people right now, because it's going through this interesting upcycle. Because you got the airframers and they continue to ramp up demand for new planes. Or they continue to ramp up, the production lines, but the demand for new planes currently far exceeds the capacity. which also enables a significant demand for retrofits of older aircraft. So you're kind of seeing all the aircraft that normally would have been retired by now actually going through major refurbishments. And I think not Qatar, sorry, Emirates is a great example now with the huge retrofit that they're doing on the A380. So, from the space of being a tier one, with a foot in the aftermarket, and laser focused on the ramp ups in production, it's kind of a really interesting space to be now if you've got the expertise to handle it.
Talking about the retrofits and all of that, and we were talking about Korean Air, and a shout out to Korean Air. They did upgrade me to a different lounge in Seoul, but
Yeah.
they really need to work on their business class product. So I hope you hit them up for a contract one of these days. You talk
Doing
about
that.
everybody's ordering planes. The demand is there. I talk to lessors. I talk to other people in the industry. Obviously, they can't get it. I didn't know, and I was looking at a Reuters story. I didn't know that a lot of the holdup in all of this was interiors. I thought it was mainly engines, and sort of, and again, you mentioned, retrofitting. They've got to go through. They've got to do the big C checks and all of this. So I want to talk about supply chain. Is Jamco, do the supply chain issues affect you at all, or is it not a problem? And what about your
Uh,
competition?
yeah, no, I would say definitely the supply chain problems affect everybody. And I think COVID really brought, I think those problems actually existed pre-COVID, but I think COVID really shook everything out and just really you really brought a light on how fragile some of that, second tier, third tier supply chain really was and how difficult it was to recover. So, I think it's a huge focus of ours to really focus in on that supply chain, really think about hardening it, really think about spending a lot of time on make buy decisions, vertical investment decisions. I actually ran supply chain for quite some time with my previous company, Moog, and it's a lot of surviving the supply chain type issues is making very clear decisions about what you should be making and what you shouldn't be making, but then also being a really, really good customer to the suppliers. Right, this era of I got to beat the suppliers up, I got to get the best price out of them hasn't paid off very well in our industry or any other industry. But you need a strong supply base, healthy supply base that's making money in order to be stable. So we're going to focus very much on making the right decisions and simultaneously being an incredible customer to our suppliers so that they can grow with us.
Well, I've seen, you talk about not beating up your suppliers, and I've talked to airlines, I've talked to MRO people before, and different other sectors, and they always talk about how much we do compete, but we also cooperate in a lot of areas. If I've got a plane down and I need a particular tool or something, and I know Joe Smith over here has that in his shop, but mine is at another shop, then maybe he'll let me borrow it and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, they can't borrow engines like that, or that maybe
Right.
they can for a price, but
Yeah, exactly.
they'll do it for a price. But it's interesting to me. Um, Recent interview again, I read premium seats, big opportunity. Producing in the U.S. would be an opportunity, obviously because of the tariffs going on right now. And I've written about this before in the magazine that the tariffs, depending, whatever side you fall on, the problem is the uncertainty. And
Mhm.
so one day it's 15%, the next day it's 35%. Then it says, well, we're going to hang off on that. How does a company like Jamco deal with that uncertainty, and how do because a lot of these, these things take a lot, these projects take a lot of time. These contracts are multi-year contracts. How do you deal with that uncertainty, and do the tariffs bother you at all?
Well, seats, just to sort of step back a second on the seats with Jam, because it's kind of really interesting. As you well know, right? The barrier to entry in business class seats is really high. It's one of those kind of business segments where you invest a huge amount of money for many years until you start to see a return. And so the interesting thing for us is Jamco had already made that investment. Actually, here in the US site, they produced seats for some time, first class seats, business class seats, done a really, really good job and actually come up with a really, really good design that's 20% lighter business class seat, 20% lighter than its competition, way fewer parts, just a solid design. But because of the pressures coming out of COVID and everything that was going on, they decided to pause that whole business sector or that sector of their group. And of course, when we came in with Bain and we looked at that, we were like, this is a fabulous opportunity because when you look around the world right now and you look at exactly what you were saying right at the beginning of the interview, there are a lot of planes on the ground right now not being able to be delivered because they don't have seats. And there are literally just a handful of companies in the world making business class seats, and they're all full. Their order books are full years and years and years out. So we saw this as an amazing opportunity to get back into that space. We have manufacturing, we have factories, we have engineers ready to go on this, and a pretty open book. So that was the reason to get back into it. As far as the tariffs are concerned, it was purely a coincidence, a lucky, happy coincidence that they happened to have built their supply chain for this product in the US. And a couple of years ago, one would have said, well, that's actually a disadvantage. But right now, from where we're sitting, exactly what you're saying with the instability in the tariffs, and these contracts are often 5, 6 years long, and not knowing what the tariffs are going to be from kind of one moment to the next, really puts us in an advantageous position right now. So we just find ourselves in this lucky position, and they've just done a very, very good job. Have a lot of in-house capability, and the parts that they don't do are kind of very local to their factory. So yeah, we're pretty excited about that opportunity and glad to have the stability of not having to worry about a big global supply chain.
Kate, I'm gonna ask you one more question, then we're gonna need to take a break. I think I read in an interview you did, it may have been a Bloomberg interview you did, where you talked about products could be delivered in as little as 6 months from now, I suppose. That seems very fast to me. But is that doable?
Yeah, so that would be a product offering. So naturally, your typical tier one airline is going to want to have a lot of things customized. They're going to want it to tie into their overall look and feel, and that generally takes 18 to 24 months. A lot of these things have to be recertified, retested. There's long supply chains that go with it. So generally speaking, from start to finish, a business class seating program is 18 to 24 months. However, I am a firm believer in the need right now for a very fast turn seat, and that would be a seat that was pre-certified, would come in a set number of colors, and that we would pre-build and have on the shelf available. And I think there is a huge need right now in a number of different areas. There's the lessors that, taking planes back, they need quick changes. They need to be able to put a fast seat on. They don't have 24 months to wait for a seat to be developed. There's also, kind of airlines maybe that aren't quite as customized, and they would really appreciate a seat that didn't require several $1 million of NRE. I think that's a customer base for that product. And I just think there's also airlines, tier one airlines, that are desperately waiting on that customized seat that need an interim solution. So I just think that's a very interesting niche that nobody's really ever been able to do anything about. So we have a product, we have manufacturing availability, so we're going to focus on that niche right now, whilst of course also doing the very much more traditional higher end bespoke programs that, that many of the airlines want. So just a new product to bring to the market, and we're hoping it's going to be pretty successful.
Okay, Kate, we need to take a quick break. We're going to hear from our sponsor, Metrojet of Hong Kong. We'll be right back after this.
We're going to have the crown jewels of Asia, and I promise you, we're going to have the nicest and busiest business aviation hangar in the region.
And we're back. We're talking with Kate Schaefer. She's the new executive chair of Jamco. Kate, you brought up something just before the break that I wanted to follow up on. You were talking about potential customers delivering soon, pre-certified product and things like that. Regions that you're focused on right now, is Asia Pacific top of the list? Is it Europe? Is it the US? I mean, Asia Pacific is sort of the one of the key drivers, if not the key driver of aviation growth in the world. Uh, what is sort of top of your list of places and airlines that you want to hit?
I think it's a question of the products that we have available. So when we're talking about the off-the-shelf seat, there are customers for that all over the world, and that's very much dependent on speed and the need to get something done really, really quickly. And as I mentioned, there's a couple of different types of customers that would be interested in that. But in general, I would say what we're looking at here, what's fascinating to both me and Bain is the thought of building a platform, um, with Jamco obviously as our first company, but a platform that really focuses on wide body, innovative, kind of high-end customer experience type products. Might be products that Jamco has already, might also be products that come from companies that we look to acquire in the future. So based on that general strategy and direction, obviously our focus is going to be on those airlines that really invest, really care, really spend a lot of time thinking about their passenger experience. And, yes, several of those are, very famous, found in the Middle East, but also many airlines in Asia, of course. JAL and ANA as well are, Japanese airlines, and also in the US and Europe. So really, it's more a category of airlines than it is a region that we really want to target to talk to them about, new products that they may not have available at the moment or may not be available that they would like to see.
Yeah, it's amazing to me the difference in you talk about the passenger experience, the quality of the product, because I've got YouTube and all of that, so I watch all of the bloggers and
Mhm.
first class on the Emirates versus first class on some no-name airline, and it's amazing the difference in the types of products. The one thing that drives me crazy about this, and tell this to your designers, why do they always put the earphone plug way back here? Where and I'm an old guy, and I get my arms get a little, I'm trying to find this, and it's always hidden back there. So
Yeah,
we need to work on form and function and those kinds of things. Um,
exactly.
Kate, I think you were a Boeing senior vice president for a while.
Mhm.
Jamco's a longtime Boeing supplier. Does that give you a special in with Boeing at the time? I mean, Boeing's got a pretty good order book, not as good as Airbus because of all the problems they face. But is Jamco really going to be working with Boeing closely, or does that help or hurt?
That's a great question, Matt. I actually don't think the Jamco will be in a better position, because of my former position. I do, though, believe that I have a unique understanding of how a supplier can support Boeing over the next 3 to 5 years. Ramping up our manufacturing, hardening our supply chain, all of those things really have to happen so that we can 100% support Boeing during this period. They are going to ramp up. It's going to happen. 777X is going to be delivered, and those rates will increase. And we, as a tier one supplier, have to be right there for Boeing. And I think I'm definitely positioned to understand how important that is. We have just recently, we've been adding talent to the team, top class industry aerospace talent. So we just added Sanjeev Sen. He's a former Collins vice president. He's joining the company as COO. He's going to be laser focused on operations and supply chain. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't say that we obviously intend to extend the same level of focus on Airbus as they ramp up A350. Airbus has been an incredible partner to Jamco over the years. They worked together to develop the ICE galley, which really interesting rear galley in the A350 that actually integrates the lavatories with the galley and thus enables the airlines to reclaim a whole row of seats, which is kind of a fascinating collaboration. And I've personally worked with Airbus for many years prior to joining Boeing. And they're just an incredible team of people as well. We're hoping very much to kind of like enhance our reputation and maybe expand our product offerings with them on the future. So yeah, laser focused on both Airbus and Boeing, and of course Comac as well. Just really need to support, really need to support all these guys over the next couple of years.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Comac. I mean, how big of I don't want to say threat, but how big of a competitor could Comac turn out to be, say, within the next 3 to 5 years for Boeing, Airbus, maybe Embraer? Is Comac poised to sort of step into the big leagues and make a splash, or is it going to take longer than that?
Look, at the end of the day, I think everybody dismissed Comac when they first launched. I've been lucky enough to be involved with them in my company previous to Boeing, which is Moog. They have a content on two of their Comac planes. I think it's going to take longer than the next 3 to 5 years, but I do think it will happen. They will eventually be a credible third player. I mean, this is a long cycle industry. It doesn't happen overnight. But they have invested a lot of money in those planes, and eventually I think they're going to get there.
You talked earlier about Jamco. You've got an MRO unit. Is that going to stay as one of the companies, as part of the focus of the company, or are you shifting to interiors?
I think the two parts of the business are very separate already, and the MRO group is very, very much focused on supporting the Japanese airlines, and we don't have any intention, of changing that anytime soon.
Okay. Back to the money guys. Bain, again, I was reading a lot of stories preparing for this. They were talking about an IPO for Jamco. You're in the process of delisting, all of that, and it takes time. The company's got to come back. You've got to get products out the door, et cetera, et cetera. Are we going to see an IPO for Jamco in the future?
Well, again, I can't really talk on behalf of Bain, but it's absolutely no secret that their timeline is usually 5 years. And I think there are probably kind of several different potential opportunities for the next phase of Jamco. Jamco's growth. One of them is definitely an IPO, a relisting of the company, but there may be other opportunities as well. So I think TBD on that one. But definitely, 5 years is normally the timeline. So we'll see.
Okay. Kate, last question. I like to end these conversations on a positive note. You talked a lot about Jamco. Give us sort of the 6 month, 1 year forecast. Where do you hope, if I talk to you a year from now, what are you going to tell me?
Well, I super focused at the moment. We're all kind of myself, and the new team that's been brought in, the existing team. We're all kind of sleeves rolled up, knee deep in manufacturing and supply chain right now. So, real big focus the next 6 months: stabilization, manufacturing and supply chain hardening, top of the list. From there on, really hoping that we'll see some expansion, product expansion. We'll see some big seat programs announced, hopefully within the next 6 months or so. And I think we'll see some acquisition announcements made, hopefully at least one within the next 6 months and maybe more next year, as we really focus on building that basket of parts that are focused, as I said, on the business class experience. And I think it's going to be a real opportunity. The two big players in interiors at the moment have consolidated up into much bigger companies. And, it's our belief, at least, that there's been a lack of innovation over the last 5 to 7 years. And that innovation is happening in smaller companies. And I think we are uniquely positioned to find those companies and bring those products together as a coordinated, cohesive kind of offering to the airline. So hopefully we'll be talking about new acquisitions a year from now.
Well, shorter term than that, are you going to be at the Singapore Air Show? Will Jamco have a presence there?
A little bit too short notice to have a presence at the Singapore Air Show. I will definitely be there, of course. We definitely will be relaunching ourselves at AIX next year. We haven't been at AIX for a couple of years. You will definitely see us there with a new stand and a new look. So really excited for that.
Okay, great. Kate Schaefer, the new executive chair of Jamco, thanks for joining me in conversation.
Thank you so much.